But sir, I will not call the name. The letter reads, Dear Mr. So-and-so, real lands to be allocated to Hope Inc. under the 10,000 housing project. Heard the honorable member for St. George a few moons ago boast that in 5 years he's going to do 10,000 solutions. People don't live in houses now. Everybody lives in a solution. My solution is up the road. His solution is cross the road. Nobody lives in houses now. So these sexy words, a solution. The letter starts, I am directed to write to you and confirm the areas that will be in the first instance allocated to your company for development under the current housing trust. This is a man signing his death warrant. This is the general manager of the National Housing Corporation surrendering to Hope. You know, when two dogs are fighting, the one that thinks he will lose goes on his back and invites the other one to cut his throat. Pardon the analogy. But this is the general manager of housing writing to Hope. Housing, as I repeat, that has served this country so well in its predecessor form as the Housing Authority and now as National Housing with those honorable, loyal public servants. And here's the general manager writing to the chief executive officer of a company called Hope, describing itself with having a status of a public-private sector partnership, which I say to you is nothing public about it. It is a private interest masquerading as a public entity. And you know that, minister. You know that. But I'm not blaming you, because I know you're not the author. I know the voice of Jacob, and I know the hand of Esau. You like that? You love that. You and I went to Sunday school, you know. You may recall that the ministry, Housing, Lands and Maintenance, working with the NHC, has established a broad matrix that treats to the housing project over a 5-year period. To bring a more focused approach in the short term, several key sites have been selected and brought forward as opportunity spaces that will be able to accommodate the volume of housing required. To this end, the sites listed below in the table are to be allocated to Hope Inc. to facilitate your directed objectives, the voice of Jacob, the hand of Esau. You want me to read them, Mr. Speaker? Do the people of Barbados find an interest in this? That their precious lands, which every government used to put into the name of the National Housing Corporation, thou good and faithful servant, the National Housing Corporation, is deemed to be a failure in 2024, and a private company masquerading in the clothing of public status is handed these private lands, the voice of Jacob, the hand of Esau. Number 1, Branchbury St. Joseph, 10 acres. Projected number of solutions. Nobody, this government no longer builds houses, this government builds solutions. 61 solutions. And for the sake of the public that's not interested in that sexy language, 61 houses. Bright Hall, St. Lucie, 40 acres, 380 houses. Colleton, St. John, 27 acres, 324 houses. Cottage, St. George, 27 acres as well, 324. I know. I know what brought you to life. Look. They can fire you, you know. I can beg for you. I know this is not your voice. I know that. I understand the situation in which you find yourself. Honorable Speaker, please control the member for St. George South, who told this country that he's going to build 10,000 houses in 5 years. You want me to tell the country how many have been built, Mr. Speaker, in 2.5 years? It's not your voice. I know, I understand your position. But I will go quickly. And I can read all of them, but I will not bore you nor the public, Mr. Speaker. That the total acreage of lands being conveyed, thank you. The total acres of lands to be conveyed to Hope is in the sum of 478.2 acres of this precious Barbadian soil, where the blood of the slaves irrigate trees and bear sweet fruit. And along comes a private company masquerading with a public status. And a parliament of this country hands to that private company in masquerade 478.2 acres. And the people in this country should be pleased. And the people at National Housing Corporation should be pleased that they are to be sent home eventually, because that is what the government will do. It is going to send them home. And they have you presiding over this infelicity. These lands should remain and should be vested in the National Housing Corporation. I became a lawyer in 1984. One of my proudest moments was when my university colleagues came to me shortly after my admission to the bar. And they were moving into West Terrace houses. I told you that West Terrace, Oxnard's husband's conurbation is the result of education in this country. Understand that. And they were coming to me as a young lawyer. I felt so happy to get some work. And the conveyance used to be from housing to the purchaser. And there was a separate agreement for the building of the house. And then Mr. Stanton Gittins, he insisted on getting his money early, and he would run down to my office. 2 checks would come. No, not a PPP. Mr. Ideal Homes was the builder. And there were other companies that were building. The builders, the land was never conveyed to the builders. Honorable Member for Christchurch West, I know what I'm talking about. I believe the Speaker may have done some of those conveyances as well. And Mr. Gittins would run down to the office for the check, because the check would come from Barbados Mortgage Finance, and he would pay. I would hand it to him and wait for my client to pay me. And one day a lawyer called me and said, "Man, you very foolish. You must take your money out before you pay it to Mr. Gittins." I said, no, I mean, the person trusted me. It's my colleague from university, and I allow them to pay me when the transaction was finished. But the point is, that is how housing typically and traditionally operated. That you vested the land in NHC, and NHC contracted the builder. And there were 2 transactions, a conveyance of land and an agreement to build a house. So the government never lost its control of the transaction. But today, in our beloved country, instead of giving the land to National Housing Corporation through this parliament occupied in majority by this government, is taking up the precious lands of this country in the sum of 478.2 acres and transferring it to Hope. But there's despair yet to be revealed. And that hope, it calls itself, let me read the last paragraph. The NHC will very shortly reach out to you to arrange a series of visits that will allow your team to familiarize themselves with the development sites. You can imagine the NHC now writing to a company, a new company on the block, incorporated in 2020. 2020! And teaching them how to kill the NHC under this minister's charge. Watching the shifting. It's the voice of Jacob. You are not guilty. I find no fault in you. I understand what is going on. But it is not my understanding that is important. It is what the people of Barbados need to understand. The people of Barbados need to understand what is happening with their birthright. $60 million out of something called the Housing Credit Fund. Public monies, the Housing Credit Fund. $60 million later. $60 million later, that money has been paid to hope. And yet there's despair in this country. How many people moved in? I don't know today's date. The 19th, perhaps? All right. All right. The honorable member for St. Michael's East came in here and got himself in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. I remember it well. I felt very sorry for him. That day he attracted my deepest sympathy for what he endured. He came in here and called your solutions all kinds of names. We're not going to use the word houses, your solutions. And he came in here and unburdened himself. And I don't even want to repeat the words that he used in here, although I heard the words that were repeated to him elsewhere. And I felt sorry for him. He's not a bad man. He did not deserve that treatment, but he got it. But let us get back to the Housing Credit Fund, which exhausted its coffers in the amount of $60 million belonging to the taxpayers of this country, which has been paid to hope. And what has hope delivered? For $60 million. If the figure is not correct, please correct me. The voice of Jacob and the hand of Esau. I know you're not Jacob. That land at Lancaster was valued at $18 a square foot. Hope got the lands at $2.50 per square foot. So it helps to be hopeful, and it helps to be hope. Land reduced in value when the honorable member for St. Philip North is being asked to pay exorbitant sums for her land. Lancaster is finding its land values reduced for the sake of a sale, a happy sale to a happy camper, to a friend, in the amount of $2.50. The taxpayers of this country need to know this. And $60 million later from the Housing Credit Fund, we have 131 solutions. Houses. 131 houses, and $60 million of the taxpayers' money has been paid out. I began by asking this government to give account. And this opposition has the right to ask this government to give account. This opposition has the right to ask this government to show transparency. That is a right that we have, and we will exercise it without fear. I am alone on this side, but I'm not lonely. The people of Barbados have sent me to do this work. This I hope I will. Every single one. It is not what I like. It is what is the truth. And I want you to admit through you, sir, that after 2.5 years, having promised to deliver 10,000 houses, 2,000 a year, so that at the rate you had planned to go, it should have been 4,000. And if we're approaching half of the year, you should have had 5,000 houses, my friend. But you have 131 houses. But nobody's perfect. But the amount of $60 million of the taxpayers' money, which has constructed 131 houses, account needs to be given to the people of this country. Give some account, either through the voice of Jacob or the hands of Esau. We want the truth. So don't shift around in your chair. I want the answers, not me. The people want them. Juravilla. I know you're the photographer, you know. I know. Yeah, I check the angle. Some boring foolishness is being talked to here. It's about it. Juravilla project. Houses out of Guyana. Juravilla. The people of Barbados saw them displayed at AgriFest a year or two ago. Beautiful little houses. And this ministry went down there and bought a whole heap of them. Incompetence is the word, you know. Incompetence, Mr. Speaker, is the word. That somehow they did not do their due diligence to discover that the Juravilla houses, that the cheap prices they were quoted did not include matters of the foundation. So that this ministry rushed after what looked like a good deal. This ministry went into a bargain basement. But the people of this country have not benefited. Those houses are, you will get a chance to speak. He will get a chance to speak, Mr. Speaker. And he will tell the people of this country where the Juravilla houses are located right now while I am here speaking on my feet. He will get a chance to tell the people of Barbados that not one Juravilla house, according to my information, has been occupied. Not one. The public didn't think it would get worse. The public did not think it would get worse. You know, during the St. George by-election, the famous statement was uttered, all big works got to come through me. You remember that? All big works got to come through me. You stop laughing. You frightened? Are the Prime Minister laughing? Well, you can laugh now. I've come, I know you had him up there. You should keep him up there. Now, hope gets more interesting. I'm not going to call any names to embarrass anybody in here. Not going to call any names. I should or I should not? I should? No. I'm not going to. That's not. You see, I practice a certain level of decorum and decency. And I don't use the privilege of this place to abuse people. You not seeing it? I'm not going to call the name though. The CEO is paid $20,000 a month. The people cleaning the roads were paid $500 a week. The CEO has departed, and we now have a new CEO. I'm not even going to call his name. He's a man from England. And I'm talking about hope, which is our national despair. I am told reliably, and you will not deny it, that the new CEO is getting $30,000 a month. And what is worse, under the charge of a prime minister who has to be concerned about our foreign reserves, he is being paid into a bank account in England. 30,000 Barbados dollars is being converted into pounds using our foreign exchange to pay him to do a job that any graduate from this University of the West Indies can do. Why do you think we have a management faculty up there for sport? For sport? What are these people doing? What is their brilliance? What is their competence? That in 2.5 years, they could only construct 131 houses for $60 million belonging to the taxpayers of this country. And you bring a man from England to do that simple job. Who is he? Is he like the man from BTMI? Will the man at the QH prove himself to be a guru? Never having worked in a hospital before? I don't use the privilege of this parliament to abuse people, but I want the people in this country to know the truth. 30,000 Barbados dollars. How much does that convert to, Mr. Speaker? I don't know. In pounds, we paying a man pounds sterling, not a cent in national insurance. And you know why we're not paying national insurance? Your CEO doesn't even have a work permit. He does not have a work permit. And that is what this government calls governance. Governance. There's another word for that, and it certainly is not governance. But there's a stench wafting through the corridors of power in this country. And the taxpayers' monies are being squandered on the basis of close personal relationships and friendships. $60 million later. $60 million later. If this were private, if Hope had gone into the banking market and borrowed the money, I wouldn't be here talking about this. They got taxpayers' money. They got $60 million belonging to the taxpayers of this country. Your Honor, I apologize for shouting, but occasionally I get angry.
I've heard that so many times, I remember.
Well, so
repetition, I remember.
So much is there to make the people of this country angry.
I've heard that so many times, countless times.
Countless times. I will lower my volumes from here on. All right, cool your passion, son. Cool your passion. You're not getting fired this evening. Let me come to the chairman. I dealt with the CEO who is getting his monies paid into a bank account in England. $30,000 belonging to the taxpayers of this country. Converted through the central bank into pounds sterling. And y'all can't give a little man a job cleaning the bus stand? What really is happening in Barbados? What is this negation of self? Why are we being treated in this country as if we have no worth by this government that thinks it is such a good government? But that is self-perception. That is your reality. The people do not think that you are a good government. The people are afraid that this government has trammeled their rights and even their right to a voice, and that is why you heard what you heard last night. I come to the chairman. I'm not going to call his name either. But the chairman of HOPE, who replaced the former civil servant, the former permanent secretary, not going to call his name either. I'm not going to use this chamber to disparage people or to bring them into disrepute. But the chairman apparently lives in South Africa. The chairman of HOPE. And he is doing meetings, HOPE meetings, the board meetings of HOPE by Zoom. Let me pause and tell the public, through you, sir, that he used to be connected to Four Seasons. And you know the professor was at Four Seasons. The professor that is now doing weather forecasting, he has gone off to work in climate change. Not comedy hour at all. Not comedy hour at all. A South African is conducting board meetings at HOPE by Zoom. Not sure how much he's being paid, but he used to be at Four Seasons. The Americans say connect the dots. Connect the dots. Connect the dots. Minister, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. You've been put on the spot. And if they try to remove you, even I will defend you. Your head on. Your head on. Your head is on. I hope you don't. I hope you don't suffer a similar fate. That's my comeback. Walk the straight and narrow, my friend. May I proceed, sir? The new finance consultant has a full-time job in another Caribbean island. I think it is St. Lucia. So HOPE has now been exported into far-flung lands of despair. The chairman is in South Africa. The CEO is an Englishman without a work permit who receives his money, the taxpayers' money, in England. And the new finance officer is receiving $14,000 a month while she is in full-time employment in another Caribbean island. I'm not trying to disparage them. I am trying to ask this government to give account for public monies. And why 3 West Indians, and better yet, 3 young Barbadians, perhaps with a first degree or masters in management, why can't those people do this simple work? But then it appears not to be that simple. Because in 2.5 years, having been given 478 acres of the land of the people of Barbados, they can only deliver 131 houses. And this government, in arrogance, believes that it is so well loved